we'll be visiting Surya Kund. Very special, very, very special place. This map is meant to show the location. As you recall, we spent many days going around Radha Kund. Radha Kund is at the top of Govardhan Hill. Let's see if we can, I should have put an arrow here. Here is Radha Kund. So north and a little bit east of Radha Kund is Surya Kund. Surya Kund. Up here is Varsana, and as you remember, a little bit further north is Yavat. Yavat is the place where Radharani was living for some time after her so-called marriage with her so-called husband, Abhimanyu, and her in-laws. So Surya Kund has a very, very, very special place in our in Radharani's pastimes, and Krishna's pastimes with Radharani are at the center of Brajalila. So that's where we're going. Surya Kund is a place of worship for Srimati Radharani and a place of her meeting Sri Krishna. Just a reflection on what we're doing in general, in a broad sense. We're hearing pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. Prabhupada writes in Krishna book, one can very easily associate with Krishna simply by remembering his transcendental pastimes. So I don't know what it's been like for all of you, but I know what it's been like for me. And it's been wonderful. Associating with Krishna is our life's ambition or goal. Many times in Prabhupada's lectures, he would speak that ask any scholar, scientist, PhD, ask them what's the aim of life. And they don't know. They'll say something, and then he'll say, eat, drink, and be merry, and that's the purpose of life. Gather knowledge, and it's so that's not the purpose of life. It doesn't take care of the problems of life either. The purpose of life is associating with Krishna, which can be very easily achieved simply by remembering. Smarana. And smarana starts with Shravanam and Kirtanam, so I'm just appreciating what we're doing by this virtual Vrindavan Yatra. Now, with Surya Kund, there's a Surya Dev, and a natural question, I know it came to my mind the first time I heard about Radharani worshipping the sun god. Why is she worshipping the sun god? Why is Radharani worshipping the sun god? And one answer is because of her in-laws. We saw this when we visited Yavat. On the far right side of our screen, that's Abhimanyu, and in the middle is his mother Jatila, and to her right or to our left in green, that's Katila. So Katila, Jatila, and Abhimanyu were quite materialistic. And their idea of worshipping Surya was that it would bring auspiciousness and success and wealth and prosperity to their family. So Radha, was encouraged to do sun worship. In a similar manner, we're going to give a little narration where Radharani was being encouraged by Abhimanyu to worship Gauri. And when we were visiting Yavat, I didn't show this image, but I'm showing it now. This is an artist's rendering of the palace or the place where they lived. Now, they were a little poorer. So the parents of Radharani were wealthy. And the parents supplied the dowry that built their home. That was the capacity of Rishabhanu and Kirtida. So if you look in the painting up in the upper floor, that's Srimati Radharani looking out the window. And I'm going to narrate quickly. Abhimanyu is wanting Radharani to worship Gauri. And it's from Rupa Goswami's writings. Vidagdha Madhava. Vidagdha Madhava is one of two dramas by Rupa Goswami. It's Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. So one day, Abhimanyu had made a decision. Enough of this dealing with my wife being mixing with that debauchee Krishna. I'm going to leave Vrindavan and go to Mathura. But before doing... Whoever's unmuted yourself, please mute yourself again. Before following through such a decision, Abhimanyu went to consult Purnamasi. Purnamasi is the person you see at the bottom in front of the house. And he presented his idea. She said, why do you want to do this? He said, I'm hearing also these stories. And Purnamasi said, oh, stories. I'll tell you what, if you can catch Radha and Krishna together red-handed, then you can leave Vrindavan. And he was very happy. Then he said, I have a second request. My dear friend, Govardhan Malla, he's become rich. He's become rich because his wife worships Gauri. Can you teach my wife how to worship Gauri? And then I'll become rich, because that's what he wants. He and his mother and his sister. So Purnamasi said, sure, I'll train her. Oh, he was very happy with both answers. And off he went. And some time passed. And as you see in the painting, Vrinda Devi came. Vrinda Devi came with a message for Purnamasi. Please make an arrangement for Krishna to meet with Radharani. And of course the obstacle was Jatila and Abhimanyu and Katila. They're the obstacle. So Purnamasi said, oh, this is an excellent time. Sharat Purnima. That's what begins this month, or the ends the previous month. Sharat Purnima is a wonderful time for the meeting of lovers. Purnamasi's into it. So, as they're discussing, Lalita and Vishaka come. So there's a four-way discussion, how to arrange a meeting of Radha and Krishna. And Purnamasi says, Abhimanyu just requested me to teach Radha how to worship Gauri. And so, Lalita and Vishaka, why don't you go arrange for Radha to go to Gauri Kund to worship Gauri? And Vishaka said, I heard that this very day, Chandravali is being sent to go visit her in-laws. And to get there, she'll pass by Gauri Kund. Very good. Vrinda Devi, go see to making some nice arrangement for that. The arrangement to have the meeting not happen. So Krishna was now informed of the plan because Vrinda Devi informed him of the plan. Radha's going to go to Gauri Kund to worship Gauri. And lo and behold, Chandravali and Padma came right by Gauri Kund before Radha got there. And Krishna engaged in conversation with them, became very humorous. He tried to embrace Chandravali, and just as he was trying to embrace Chandravali, Chandravali's grandmother came. And Chandravali's grandmother picked up a stick and told Krishna, "Get out of here." And she took Chandravali by the hand and took her back to her house. Krishna waited. No, a detail here is Padma thought, wrongly, that Lalita had informed Chandravali's grandmother that she was going to be meeting Krishna at Gauri Tirtha, and so Padma went back to inform Jatila that Krishna is going to be meeting Radharani at Gauri Kund. You should come quickly.
Jatila had gone men's message.
Whoever is unmuted, please mute yourself. Thank you very much. You haven't done it yet because we can hear some sound. Please mute yourself. Thank you. So Radharani came. Here's Radharani coming to engage in Gauri worship, directed by Purnamasi to engage in Gauri worship. And Krishna saw her. So Krishna started teasing her, and long conversation. Radharani was being in her angry mood, and she just kept moving. Because he was angry mood because purposefully, according to Rupa Goswami's writings, he mentioned Chandravali's name. And when Radharani heard Krishna mentioning Chandravali's name, she became angry. And she stormed off. And the purpose, according to Rupa Goswami, Krishna did that on purpose. Because he wanted a change of mood. And the change of mood was, he called for Vrinda. Vrinda, you're very expert at, could you make it full screen? Okay. Could you arrange for a female costume and a golden complexion for me? So he was going to act as the Gauri deity, which he did, with Vrinda's assistance, because Vrinda's a good costume maker. And so Krishna went to Gauri Kund. There's the painting in the back. That's the Gauri deity is behind, and Krishna stood in front of the Gauri deity. Krishna stood in front of the Gauri deity looking like Gauri. And Radharani was preparing all the articles for worshipping of Gauri when Jatila and Abhimanyu showed up. Now Jatila is in the center of this painting. There's Jatila, the older lady, and she said, "Abhimanyu, here it is. Just see, Krishna is present and interfering with Radharani's worship of Gauri." And you see Madhu Mangal down here with his ladus in his hand, of course, little chubby Madhu Mangal. And Lalita said, "Oh no, Gauri, please tell Abhimanyu the bad news." And Gauri said, "It's too terrible, you tell him." And Jatila wanted to know, what's the bad news? What's the bad news? Said, well, it's terrible news. Kamsa is coming tomorrow, and he's going to cut off Abhimanyu's head. What? He's going to cut off Abhimanyu's head? Gauri, please do something. Please do something. Gauri said, normally I don't get involved in affairs of family and all these issues, but because of this wonderful worshipper of mine, Radha, I'll make some arrangement. And what was that arrangement? Now there's some detail here. Yeah, Abhimanyu was going to take Radha from Vrindavan to Mathura, and you too, Jatila. And if that happens, how can I get involved? Oh, I promise, we'll never leave. Please protect my son. And so Krishna agreed. Very well. I'll make an arrangement so that Kamsa won't come and cut off your Abhimanyu's head tomorrow. Oh, thank you. So Jatila and Abhimanyu left. Jatila and Abhimanyu left, and Purnamasi showed up right on time and said, this is just a wonderful arrangement for Sharad Purnima, for Radha and Krishna to be together without any interference from Abhimanyu and Jatila. Now there's more detail, but I don't think time permits. But there's an example of the materialistic idea that Abhimanyu and Jatila had in worship of demigods. So those who worship the demigods, we know from Bhagavad Gita, they do so because they have material desire, kama. Kama istaita ritagyana prapadyante anya devata. Anya devata, various devas, are worshipped by people that have material desire. So back to the question, why would Radharani worship the sun god other than to fulfill the desire of her in-laws? Well, it's not only Radharani, but the young gopis. They also worshipped what for the worldly people is a demigoddess, Katyayani, a form of Durga, but they were actually worshipping Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the internal potency that arranges connection with Krishna, just like we're doing by hearing and remembering Krishna's pastimes. It's the Yogamaya potency, not the Mahamaya potency. So as they worship Katyayani to connect with Krishna, or many of you are familiar with the pastime of Govardhan Puja, Krishna wanted the Brijbasis to worship not Indra but Govardhan Hill, with the sense that breaking Indra's pride, or the Brijbasis went on Shivaratri to worship Lord Shiva, but we discussed this. It's the Sadashiva of Vaikuntha that they were worshipping because they have no material desire. They have no material desire. So why is Radharani worshipping Surya Dev? She is worshipping Surya Dev as Surya Narayan, and this, it's stated many places, this very special place, Surya Kund, where the Surya Dev deity is there, this Surya bestows Krishna unto those who have no material desire. I'll say it again. This Surya bestows Krishna unto those who have no material desire. And for that reason, the worship of Surya Dev was not only an activity of Srimati Radharani, but there are a number of great acharyas who stayed by the side of Surya Kund and did their puja there, their worship. One of them you see in this image on the left side, that's Madhusudana Das Babaji, who is the guru of our Jagannath Das Babaji, and his samadhi is here at Surya Kund because he spent his life worshipping Radha Krishna in this very unique mood. Not the same, but very close to the mood of Radha Kund in its significance for Radha Krishna activities. Because in this place, Surya Kund, it was one of the places, for the most part, that Jatila didn't interfere with the worship of Surya because she had her materialistic idea, and this was a perfect opportunity for Radha and Krishna to meet without interference from Jatila and Katila. And in this mood, transcendental mood, of love between Radha and Krishna, Surya Kund has a very special place, and great acharyas in our line. And we don't hear so much about Madhusudana Das Babaji, but we certainly hear about Jagannath Das Babaji. And we're going to hear something more. Jagannath Das Babaji also did his bhajan primarily here and another part of the year in Navadvip. He moved back and forth. And the right side, you see a stone where Radharani was bathing at Surya Kund. She placed her crown on the stone, and the stone melted from the ecstasy of Radharani carried through her crown. And you look on the wall behind the samadhi, and that's where that stone is. They placed it behind the samadhi. So who can imagine the meditation of Madhusudana Das Babaji as he was engaged in his activities here at Surya Kund. And another personality who also followed him was Jagannath Das Babaji. There's a very nice story. This Surya Kund is in a secluded place. It's not like many of the other places in Vrindavan that have become very commercial. It's a forested area. We'll see photographs shortly. And very thick in foliage, because it's Vrindavan. In course of time, trees get chopped down and it's not what it used to be. But when Jagannath Das Babaji was there, it's practically just forest. And he developed a desire to worship Lord Gauranga. So his servant arranged for a sonar Gauranga, sonar indicating that the deity looked golden. And there were some dacoits or robbers that came to know Jagannath Das Babaji has a golden deity of Gauranga. And so they came in the middle of the night when he was resting to try to steal the deity. But as they were trying to steal the deity, I forget exactly, something happened. They banged their head heavily on his cottage, and their heads started to bleed, and they took it as a bad sign, so they left the deity. Something like that. So Jagannath Das Babaji informed his servant, it's not good to keep a golden, or keep sonar Gauranga here. Another person will come along and try to steal. So it was arranged he took the deity into Vrindavan town, and to this day, the Sonar Gauranga deity is worshipped. I have some photographs of that deity but I didn't have time to place them. So it was very much part of our line, Jagannath Das Babaji, and others prior to him, and following him, Gorkishore Das Babaji also spent. Where did Gorkishore live before he shifted to Navadvip? He lived at Surya Kund, where his guru, who was a disciple of Madhusudana Das Babaji, his name was Bhagavat Das Babaji, they both did their bhajan here at Surya Kund. The point is, why are they at a place where it's demigod worship? That's the point. They're not interested in demigod worship. No way. What are they interested in? They're interested in the rasa of the loving exchange. Very deep and profound loving exchange of Radha and Krishna here at Surya Kund. As we saw 10 days worth of those elevated devotees who made their residence or place of bhajan by the side of Radhakund, so similarly here at Surya Kund, a whole line of great personalities. So let's go visit the temple. Here's the deity. You'll see many photos of the deity in the temple room. And I have another image of the temple room. It's very nicely done. It's organized by and overseen by and maintained by a Gaudiya Math group. And there's smaller deities on the right side, as we're looking at the altar. But the main deity is this one at the center, Surya Dev. So the Surya Dev is a bas relief deity. Bas relief deity means there's not freestanding, but it's a stone that is flat in the back and is not three-dimensional, but protruding out from the flat stone is the deity of Surya Dev, or Surya Narayana. And you see his two hands extended towards us, giving benediction and giving benediction. That's the mudra, the benediction giving. And the benediction giving person that he's giving is he gives Krishna. Here's another closer photograph of Surya Dev and the altar that's to the right, and that white marble little altar. Here's a closer image of Surya, and here's a further away image of the same day, and another day where Surya is a very close image with his two benedicting hands raised. There must be some specific meaning of the lifting of two fingers, because that's what on each hand. It's not just an open hand, but it's two fingers. Something significant, I'm sure. And the deity itself has on either side, here's some brass images of the sun, but the deity in its original form has those two suns, one side and the other side. And here's a close-up of Surya Dev, or Surya Narayan. And on the wall, you can see, some of the painting is flaked off the wall in the lower sections. But on the wall of the temple is the deity. Here's some photographs of the place. This is from a closer view. In the front is the Kund, and the back is where the temple is. Here's a little bit further away. There's some water buffalo crossing from one side to the other, and there's the temple in the background. And this is taken from the exact opposite side, from the temple side looking out, from the same direction that we were in. And another photograph of Surya Kund, with some, not many, you see it's not very well developed, lots of trees, very natural setting. Here's a description of Surya Kund found in Bhakti Ratnakar. This Bhakti Ratnakar is a celebrated book. Narahari Chakravarti Thakur wrote it, describing the pastimes of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after his departure, because Chaitanya Charitamrita is during his presence, and this is after his departure. Here he's taking two Vaishnavas, Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das Thakur, taking them on pilgrimage throughout all of Vrindavan. Here is Surya Kund Gram. Just see the deity of Suryadev situated in the Surya Mandir within this forest. In great happiness, Radharani, with her Sakhis, came here to worship Suryadev. Krishna himself became the priest and enjoyed performing the puja. This deity of Suryadev is very, very merciful and gives love of Krishna. Who can describe his glories, and who will not worship him? And he quotes, I worship Suryadev, who is the father of Yamuna and the destroyer of all diseases. He bestows attachment to the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, he is the basis of all auspiciousness. And on the strength of these statements, not only Radharani, but exalted personalities in our line, they made this their place of worship, along with the deity of Suryadev. The pastimes connected with Radha's worship of Suryadev are described in detail, and we're going to summarize the two main pastimes that are described by Krishnadas Kaviraj, shown on the left here, in his Govinda Lilamrita, and on the right side, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Krishna Bhavanamrita. Now, I don't have copies of these books, but the pastime is often recited, and I'll do my best to give a summary. I'm showing this image of Radharani's family tree so that you can see down in the lower right corner, you'll see the name Mukhara. Mukhara is the grandmother of Radharani. Mukhara is the grandmother of Radharani, and she plays a role in this pastime at Surya Kund. So both authors describe that on a regular basis, around 3 o'clock daily, you remember at Manasa Pavangat. Manasa Pavangat is by the side of Surya Kund, by the side of Shamakund. Manasa Pavangat is a place where the gopis would come every day at noon to take their bath and place their clothes along the steps and take their bath in the Kund. And Krishna would come and they would joy. Now remember the geography, Surya Kund is not so far, pretty close. And daily, around 3 o'clock, Radharani would go to Surya Kund to worship Suryadev, taking her bath first at Shamakund. And the pastimes are described because it's the daily, so there's variegatedness in the pastimes. But Jatila was very keen on Radharani worshipping Suryadev for her material reasons. Benediction for their family. Purnamasi said on regular occasion to Jatila, It's only because of this pure and elevated personality as your daughter-in-law that your family is being maintained. And you treat her so badly. Treat her with great respect and dignity because she's everything for the well-being of your family. But Jatila was always mistrustful. And that's part of the rasa, part of the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. So Jatila wanted to check on Radharani's worship of Surya Dev. So in different ways, in different days, Krishna would dress as a Brahmin, wearing the garments of a Brahmin and carrying the implements of a Brahmana in his hand. And he went by the name Vishvasharma. Vishvasharma. Sharma is a Brahminical name often found in this area. And in Rajasthan also, Sharma. And Vishva, the Pujari of the universe, Vishvasharma. And of course, his younger assistant, Madhumangal. Krishna was taking the dynamic of the relationship when they met with Jatila was Krishna was younger. Krishna was older and Madhumangal was older. But it was actually the other way around. Anyway, in different ways, like for example, here's one simple narration. Jatila saw that Radharani was unable to do the worship because there wasn't a Brahmana there, so Jatila went looking and she happened to bump into Krishna. And Krishna was in his Vishvasharma dress. And she said, "Can you help us?" And Madhumangal said, "Sorry, we don't engage in activities with ladies. We're very strict." And she said, "Good. I'm looking for someone who's very strict and a Paka Brahmin. So please come and help." And some back and forth discussion. And Krishna finally agreed with reservation. So when they got there, Krishna started saying mantras that Jatila had never heard before. And she said, "What are these mantras?" And Madhumangal interrupted, said, "What do you know about Brahminical mantras? You know, Brijbasi songs and those things, but what do you know about Vedic mantras?" And in the details of their writings, because these are poetic authors, there's double meaning. There's the apparent meaning and there's the intended meaning, which is Radha and Krishna enjoying together. That's the intended meaning. But the mantras can have other meanings. So it's given in their writings, the mantras that Krishna would recite and so forth and so forth and so on. And when the puja was done, Krishna said that she's doing the puja, she has to circumambulate the pujari and place her head at the pujari's feet. And Jatila instructed Radha, "You do that. Go quickly." And so Radharani, smiling, circumambulated the pujari, who was Krishna, and placed her head at his feet. And then came the dakshin time. And Jatila said, everything, puja is incomplete without dakshin to Guru, to the pujari. And Krishna said, I don't accept anything from ladies. And Madhumangal said, "I'll accept." And said, "What I want is laddus." And so she said, "I didn't bring laddus." So that she went to get some laddus. And when they went to get laddus, that left Krishna with Radharani and the Surya deity. So they were enjoying pastimes together, And lo and behold, who would show up but Radharani's grandmother? And Radharani's grandmother was named Mukara. And Mukara saw Radha and Krishna together. She became very angry and picked a stick and started chasing after Krishna. Get out of here, you're a this and a that. And Krishna ran and hid in a bush. But she couldn't see so well. And she, Mukara, saw something moving in a bush, and it turned out it was Shankachuta. This is a different version of the Shankachuta story that you're common. It's like in the Bhagavatam. This is a different version. That's okay. And there is Shankachuta. And she went charging at Shankachuta with her stick raised. And Shankachuta thought, who is this lady so bold and fearless? And so he jumped out from behind his hiding place. He grabbed Radharani and started running with Radharani. Mukara called out, help, help, Krishna, help, which is just what Krishna wanted. So Krishna slapped his arms, tightened his belt around his waist, and went chasing after Shankachuta and killed him. And took the jewel that was on his head, on his turban, and gave the jewel to Balaram. Apparently Balaram was here because he gave the jewel to Balaram, and Balaram later gave it to Radharani. And there's a very, and so Mukara, there's a very detailed explanation, very detailed, complicated explanation found in the Lita Madhava, that Radharani had that jewel, and when Krishna departed, she still had that jewel, and she entered into the river Jamuna. This is the Lita Madhava. And the sun god came and lifted her up. The sun god, who was very happy with her worship, and she's in this suicidal, I can't maintain my life mood. He picked her up out of the river Jamuna. She had the jewel in her hand, and that jewel in her hand later became the Shamantaka jewel that was given by the sun god to Satrajit. And it's a very involved story. Very involved. And I'm not going to attempt to narrate it at this time anyways. It's a very involved description. That's, so Mukara was very happy. Oh, you saved my granddaughter. You're a great hero. So now she was, instead of being angry at Krishna, she was very happy with Krishna. And that's how that Leela at Surya Kund ends. The killing of Shankachuta, that's in the Bhagavatam, was he was running towards Mathura to take the gopis or take Radharani to Kamsa in Mathura. And Krishna chased after him, and Krishna hit him in the head, and he was finished. And so some explanations are that happened at Surya Kund. And you know now the location of Surya Kund. It's north or northeast of Radhakund. And here's the additional and second history of the Surya Kund deity, Surya Dev. Are you ready? It's very intriguing. One time, Krishna was enjoying pleasure pastimes with Radharani, and he was so absorbed in his pleasure pastimes that he didn't even notice that his flute fell, because he often keeps his flute tucked in his cloth, and the flute fell out. And he didn't notice, but Lalita noticed, and Lalita quickly picked up the flute, and she started chastising the flute. You are so hard. You are so cold. You have so many holes. And it's you who's creating so much disturbance in our life. And you're just born from mud of a river. Without any qualification, you're enjoying Krishna's lips. But we have to go through so much difficulty. Rather than returning you to your master, I am going to teach you a lesson. And she placed the flute in her braid, knotted braid. And Krishna didn't notice all of that. The very next day, you may remember the image that we saw at Shyamakund and Radhakund, where that sitting place of the two, and they would play games. I meant to put that image here, but I didn't have time. So picture in your mind that place. And Radharani challenged Krishna to a match. And they had to have some stakes. Whoever lost would have to sacrifice whatever the winner wanted. So they were playing a game, and Krishna lost. Radharani won. So she said, I want your Kaustubha gem. And the Kaustubha gem represents his opulence. And Krishna wasn't reluctant. He was very happy seeing his beloved Srimati Radharani having this opulence of the Kaustubha gem. And he was very happy, and she was very happy. And that's the non-envious nature, although sometimes they're playful back and forth. So they had a second match. And the second match, Radharani won, Krishna lost. So Radharani wanted the pearl necklace that Krishna was wearing. And so they had a third gambling match. And Krishna was very confident he would win. And he said, I'll put up my flute. And she said, I'll show you how confident I'll win. I'll put up my veena. Whoever wins gets the other person's very favorite article. Radharani won. So Krishna started searching for his flute, and he couldn't find his flute. Because he forgot the previous day, Lalita had picked it up. And he didn't even notice it was gone. Now remember, these are the writings of our acharyas. And Krishna turned to Madhamangal, what are we going to do now? And Madhamangal saw, this is very bad. How are we going to control these girls? Because Krishna, by using his flute, charms and attracts their hearts, etc., etc. So Krishna says, Madhamangal, you're a Brahmin. You know some mantras. You see if you can produce the flute through mantras. And he boasts, saying, if I produce the flute through my mantras, then you should give me 10,000 ladus. And he chants his mantras, and the flute doesn't appear. Now he's very embarrassed. And Krishna says, well, you know astrology. You can ask an astrology question, prashna it's called, and see if you can find where the flute is. And he did his astrology thing. And he said, Lalita has it. And Lalita was in anxiety because Lalita put it in her braid. And then what happened? As she paid her obeisances, Krishna wanted to check, but before he checked, the flute fell out of her braid, And Radharani picked it up and nobody noticed. So Radharani has the braid now. Radharani has the flute. So Krishna's checking everybody, and finally Radharani, and it's time to check Radharani. And in comes one of the gopis, one of the messengers saying, "Look out, Jatila's coming, Jatila's coming." That's like, you blow the whistle and everyone's panicked. Like the police are coming, and they're something like that. And so she's coming to see if you're at Surya Kund doing your puja. So the gopis, there's three groups. The gopis quickly go to Surya Kund to resume the puja. And Krishna goes with Madhu Mangal following behind. And then in another group, it's Jatila and Katila going to Surya Kund to see what's going on. Is Radharani doing her puja? As Jatila is rushing to get to Surya Kund, she happens to bump into Krishna, who now has his Vishvasharma costume on. And she says, I'm going to check on Radharani's worship of Suryadev. Can you assist in the puja? And Krishna said, I'm sorry, but we don't engage in these kinds of things with ladies. And Madhu Mangal said, yes, we're very strict brahmacharis, but I just happen to be going to Suryadev anyway, so we can help you. Something like that. And so off they go, Jatila, Madhu Mangal, and Vishvasharma. And they get to the place where Suryadev is, and they start to say mantras that Jatila never heard before, and it's the double meaning mantras, and she doesn't get it. And, Krishna said, of course you don't get it. What do you know about Vedic mantras? You're not even qualified to worship Suryadev. And she said, but we've been doing it for so long. And he said, that's the problem. You're not purified. You take bath in this Surya Kund and you'll become freed from all of your impurities. While she takes bath in Surya Kund, Krishna manifests the Surya Dev deity form. So now we have two Krishnas, Vishvasharma and the Surya Dev deity. So it's accepted that from Krishna's time, the Surya Dev deity that you saw the photographs of is Krishna, manifesting as Surya for the pleasure of Radharani and his pastimes. This is in the writings of our acharyas. And so she comes back, and so the puja resumes, and yeah, and in the course of all the puja, remember Radharani has the Krishna's flute in her braid, right? So the puja's done, and Krishna says, Vishvasharma says, your daughter-in-law has to pay obeisances and circumambulate the pujari. That's part of the ritual. So she does, and when she pays obeisances, the flute falls out of her braid. And Jatila goes, what's this? And the gopis are laughing, and Radharani's turning red, and Radharani's very expert at, distracting Jatila, and said, oh, I meant to tell you, the other day, I was at Govardhan Hill, and this flute came falling down the hill, and then I picked it up, and I realized, no, this probably belongs to that young boy that's always causing trouble to all the gopis, and so I plan to throw it away. Jatila says, no problem, give it to me, and I'll throw it away. I'll throw it in the river Jamuna just today. So now Jatila has the flute. And Krishna wants his flute. So Krishna says, oh, good fortune. You're an older lady and your vision is not so good. It's difficult to go all the way to the river Jamuna. I happen to be going to Mathura tomorrow, and you just give it to me and I'll make sure it gets disposed of in a nice way. Just toss it in a distant place. Oh, you're so kind. And then comes the dakshin. And the dakshin, again, is, listen to this. Krishna says, I won't take anything. I don't take dakshin from ladies. And she said, you must. It's just part of the ritual. You must accept dakshin. She said, whatever you wish, you can give it to Madhu Mangal. So Jatila says, Radha, you're wearing a nice pearl necklace. Remember, it was Krishna's pearl necklace. You're wearing a nice pearl necklace. You should give it to Vishvasharma. And Vishvasharma says, you can give it to Madhu Mangal. And Madhu Mangal wears the pearl necklace, and that's how the story ends. But this is a very lengthy, even more lengthy when it's actually in a written form, but a lengthy description of how the Surya Dev deity, or Surya Narayana, came to be, and the daily, just like Krishna and Radha would meet at Radha Kund daily. So this is one of their daily adventures. Then as well on Sunday, because Sun Day is the worship of the sun. It's where the etymology comes for our English word sun comes. So every day at 3 and a special puja on Sunday. So that's part of the mystery. It's a very mysterious place. Very, very rich and deep in rasa tattva. And I didn't have time to explore more pastimes. I'm sure there's more pastimes. And between now and when we get there during the virtual Vrindavan Yatra, I may know some additional pastimes. And we can add that to this presentation. But for now, those are the two primary ones. They're told by different narrators in slightly varied ways. But these are the two main pastimes, which are illustrating what would happen on a daily basis. As long as Krishna remained in Vrindavan. A nice meeting place. Back to our, let's see here. A place of worship for Srimati Radharani, and a place of her meeting Sri Krishna. And very humorous and transcendental ways. Now, we'll never find anything like this in Vaikuntha. You'll never find anything like this in Vaikuntha. The sweetness of Braja is overwhelming. And it becomes, it's filled with mystery and more mystery. And our acharyas, qualified persons, have access to this mystery. And as mentioned, how Rupa Goswami describes just, the jewel of Shankachuda and how it ends up becoming the Shamantaka jewel, and so much intrigue connected with the Shamantaka jewel. That's beside what's in the Bhagavatam, what he describes. Radharani carried that with her to Surya's abode, and eventually Surya placed Radharani in Dwarka as Satyabhama. It's very interesting. But so those of you that are interested in esoteric literature, I recommend that you don't go there right away. I recommend that you read Prabhupada's books, many times over. This is specific to a virtual Vrindavan Yatra, and if we were in Vrindavan, we would hear these pastimes also. And I recommend that it's not your regular reading. Your regular reading is the ABC. And when we go to Vrindavan, we want to appreciate the very special place that Vrindavan is, and the sweetness of the exchanges of Krishna with his devotees in Vrindavan, and even those that provide obstacles, like Jatila and Katila. We heard some of them when we visited Yavat, and it makes the pastimes even sweeter. Even sweeter. Even sweeter. So, that's it for this morning. And let's see if there's some discussion. We'll start with our online people to check out our technology and see if it's working. Do our translators have audiences, or you're just speaking, to the wall? If there are persons in the audience that would like to raise a question, please do so.
Hare Krishna devotees. At this point, you're all muted. We'll be unmuting Zoom meeting. At this point, you can raise your hand. If not, you will be able to unmute yourself in a minute. Hello, participants. Yeah.
This is our technology check time. And we're very grateful to Vangsidari for doing headstands and cartwheels to get all this technology organized for all of you. What to speak of when we have 1,000 people online. It's going to be very interesting. If there's nothing online, we'll just ask the people in the room if they want to contribute something to this discussion. Vangsidari, can we have the microphone?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. I had a couple of points. One was that the Surya Dev deity was manifested by Krishna
Yes.
for the pleasure of Radharani. So that set me on a train of thought that actually, so I have a chance to participate in a tiny way in this loving pastimes. I'm not able to express it properly, but essentially, what I'm trying to get at is, instead of thinking that all of these deities, these pastimes, everything is supposed to give pleasure to me, I want to take in that point that this is actually a loving exchange between these two personalities, and then I have a chance to participate in that exchange. So that's one point I want to take away. And then the second point that also was coming up for me was in the past time it is said puja is incomplete without dakshin to the guru. So I want to meditate on that and see how on a day-to-day basis also I want to meditate on that aspect of that of scripture. And perhaps thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. You want me to comment on that? Well, gratitude is the best dakshin, and gratitude means the heart and the mind and the body. The giving of gratitude is heart, mind, and body. Like, a nice example is Raghunath Das Goswami and his 100 obeisances every day. It's his heart, his mind, and his body. It wasn't to get something, it was giving. Service and gratitude to the Vaishnavas.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it was like a joy ride for me. It was very fun to hear all these stories. And particularly when I had played the part of Mukhara, so it was really like I was laughing. So, um, and one funny question was coming, Maharaj, that Kaustuba Jewel stayed with Radharani then? Because that was not
Yeah,
returned.
I also caught that detail, and there's no mention in the pastime of what happened with the Kastuba gem. So something happened, but we're not told what happened.
Thank you so much.
Sundar Gopal Prabhu, I see your hand raised. Please unmute yourself. Are you able to unmute now? Last unmute. Sundar Gopal Prabhu, are you able to unmute? We are trying to unmute from here, but if you're having difficulty, please send a chat message. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Danvat Pranam. This is Sundar Gopal Das here.
Haribo.
Thank you very much. Very nice answer. I have a couple of questions. One is, Mukhara is Radharani's grandmother from in-laws side, or she is from the her parents' side?
She's her maternal grandmother. If you want to see the chart again, I can pull it up.
Yeah, sure, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, because I'm doing something else right now, let me do that something else right now.
Okay.
And then, as soon as I'm done with that something else, I'll pull it up.
And there was another slide that you had on Surya Kund's location. I just wanted to, because I'm, in next couple of weeks, I'll be going to Vrindavan, and I would definitely like to visit Surya Kund. So just wanted.
It's remote, but it's sweet. Okay. Can we show him this screen? So there, Kirtida is Radharani's mother. And then there are Kirtida's uncles and aunts, and Kirtida's father and mother. So Radharani's grandmother, Radharani's grandfather, and Radharani's mother. So maternal grandmother. Can you see?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
There is a question from Padma Priya Mataji. Is Surya Narayana deity in Vraj and presiding deity of sun, are they one and the same?
No. Yes to the first one and no to the second one. The sun is not Narayan. The sun is changing demigod from Manu to Manu. And there's the presiding deity of the sun, and that's Surya Narayan.
And the follow-up to that, is Lord Surya a pure devotee who grants lotus feet of Krishna?
Well, is Surya a pure devotee? And, he's a demigod. And are the demigods pure devotees? But demigods have powers, especially if someone approaches them as Radharani is approaching Surya, or as these great devotees in our disciplic line that worshipped the Surya Narayan deity. So that then it's not the sun they're worshipping, it's the Surya Narayan they're worshipping. That's it. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.